welcome into Starting Nine here on the 5 Reasons YouTube channel. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick and at 5 Reasons Sports. I'll get my eyes in the right place here eventually. Thanks to our producer, Manny Chang. Going to be here a couple times a week going forward until heat season starts. And then maybe we'll ramp it up a little bit. We will see, but we're focusing on the Dolphins today. We do want to tell you about one of our great sponsors. I ran into him at Dolphins camp. He's a big Dolphins fan. He's our friend Louis Peters. You can find him at louispeters.com, Luis Peters.com. He works for State Farm. He's based in Miami. You can see there 7750 Southwest 117th Avenue. And you know State Farm does everything, right? They do the life insurance, they do the car insurance, the renter's insurance, the homeowner's insurance, all of that stuff they do at State Farm. And Louis is someone you can absolutely trust. He's also a huge Miami sports fan. Probably divert you a little bit talking about that. But reach out to Louis. LouisPeters.com is the best place. 305-275-5585. I can tell you that I have my car insurance with him. I've got my renter's insurance with him. I've sent other people to him. He's got a real easygoing manner, but he knows what he's doing. And if you have any kind of an issue, he'll help take care of it for you. He's there 24 hours a day and after hours by appointment. You can see there. And also his office is open every day from 9 to 6. So reach out to Louis. I think it's 9 to 6. Is that 9 to 6 or 9 to 8? My eyes aren't so good. 305-275-5585. LouisPeters.com. All right, let's get to it today. The Dolphins, well, the tests are coming, right? Like when we saw the schedule, we knew, like there's no surprises this year. The AFC is better than the NFC. I don't think there's any question. It's like when you talk about the NBA, and you knew for years the West was just better, which I don't think is actually the case anymore, finally. But this year, there's no comparison between the AFC and the NFC. I mean, you have 4 teams in the West. I mean, you know, Nathaniel Hackett's decisions aside, but you have 4 teams in the West of the AFC that probably would be playoff teams in the NFC. Okay, in the Chargers, Chiefs, we're going to see a little bit of that tonight. Obviously, the Raiders and the Broncos all would probably be playoff teams in the NFC. Then you have to add to that Buffalo, which looks like the best team in the league. We're going to talk about them. I'm not a believer in the Patriots. I wasn't before they played the Dolphins, although I don't think they're as bad as everybody's making them out to be just because the Dolphins beat them. But then you look at the North. Pittsburgh, you don't know about the quarterback situation, but Tomlin will have them competitive. Baltimore, the opponent this week. Cincinnati, and Cleveland still has personnel, even though obviously they've got the quarterback situation. And then you look at the South. I still think Tennessee is competitive. And then you look at Indianapolis, which the tie aside in the opener should be pretty good. I don't believe, obviously, in Houston and Jacksonville, but you're talking there about 10 teams, roughly. I mean, 10 teams. There's not enough spots for all of them. And right now, from the very start, the Dolphins get 4 AFC opponents. They've beaten the one that's in their division. They're going to get another one that's in their division in Buffalo. This week, they get Baltimore, and they get Cincinnati. So they're facing, essentially, if you talk about the defending AFC champions and the team that's supposed to win the AFC this year in Buffalo, I mean, you're talking about getting all the heavy hitters early. And so I love the good feeling that came out of game 1 from most fans. There were, you know, of course, everybody's got to argue about tip passes and all the rest of this stuff. But when I saw the video of McDaniel with the Gatorade, you know, shower and all that, and the way that fans were reacting to that, this coach has already won people over. I did a poll saying, are you sold on him? Do you need to see more, or are you not sold on him? 97% said either sold on him or need to see more, and that was split about evenly. Only 3%, 2 or 3% said no, not sold on him. So this coach, unlike other coaches who've come in here, has won people over from the start. Look, Adam Gase had a pretty decent first season. Tony Sparano had a good first season after starting 1-3. Joe Philbin was kind of mediocre in every possible way. Cam Cameron's first season, obviously not so good. Thank God for Greg Camarillo. Nick Saban's first season was a disappointment. People don't remember that. Now, it got better late because they won their last 6, but they started 3-7. And there were high expectations, right? Jimmy Johnson's first season, everybody knew he was kind of stripping the thing down. But I think people expected more since Marino was still on the roster, even though Dan and Jimmy didn't get along. So this, to me, is as good a honeymoon as any coach has ever had here. But it's going to get tested now. And the win over Baltimore last year aside, and we hear, you know, Lamar Jackson talking about how they're going to be ready for cover 0 and all the things that the Dolphins threw at them last year. I don't think that the Dolphins showed everything last week. I think that there was a lot of motion on offense, which we expected. I think defensively they're going to be more exotic this week than they were last week. I think that the fact that Boyer has full control of the defense, I love what McDaniel said yesterday. I want to make him the coach of the defense. That's it. Accountability is important, but also independence is important. That seems to be the difference between, or one of the major differences between McDaniel and Flores, is that Flores is one of the micromanaged units that he didn't know really anything about. We've seen that with other coaches too. You don't want a coach who's an offensive coach to neglect the defense, but you also don't want him to meddle too much. So I expect that there will be more exotic blitzes. I think we'll see more things to try to keep Lamar Jackson under control. But look, one of the things I think that got totally overlooked in the first week by the national media, because nobody mentioned it, because all of a sudden the Patriots aren't any good after before Mac Jones was headed for the Hall of Fame, was that Miami just has a lot of good players on defense. Like, this is not flukish when they control another quarterback or another team. You can make a case that they have the potential for 6 or 7 blue chip players on the defense, like players who are clearly in the top 10 to 15 at their position in the league. That's how I gauge it. And you look at right now, is Xavier Howard? Absolutely. Is Javon Holland? By the end of this year, I don't think anybody will be questioning that. Okay, so you've got 2 for sure. Okay. Byron Jones, when he comes back, he's pretty damn good. I know he doesn't get interceptions. I know he can't catch, but nobody throws at him. He's pretty good. All right. You look at the defensive line. Is Agba there? He's kind of on the fringe. He's pretty good. Baker, probably a little bit below, right? Zach Sealer in his snaps is pretty elite. Christian Wilkins, he's right there right now. He's made the kind of progress that you want him to make. And then you've got good supporting players. Or Alfredo Arteaga was talking about this with Ingram and with Van Ginkel and with Needham. And they keep finding guys like the kid from last week whose name I can't pronounce, from Texas A&M Commerce. They have really good players on this defense. I was looking back at it just to say, okay, when have they had this much talent, like where there were not significant holes on the defense? And you really have to go back to the era that I covered, honestly, where you had Surtain and Madison at corner and Brock Marion at one of the safeties, right? We always used to talk about who would play the other safety. And at the linebacker spot, you had Zach, but you also had, for a couple of years, Junior Seau. You had Derek Rogers, who was a pretty good player. And then on the defensive line, you had Tim Bowens, who I always thought was elite, okay, when he put his mind to it. And, of course, JT. And then on the other side, you had, for a couple of years, Trace Armstrong. And then you had Adewale Ogunleye. You always had 6, 7, like, legitimate, blue chip or borderline blue chip players on the defense. The problem was they didn't have an offense, and they didn't have offensive coaches, because they had Jimmy changing his offensive coordinator pretty much every year, going with a guy like Kippy Brown who wasn't really qualified. Or you go beyond that to Wannstedt, where, again, changing the offensive coordinator every year and wanting to punt again. This comes in from Alfredo. I love this too. Yeah, the very first words Mike McDaniel said addressing his locker room was, "I didn't do bleep." Refreshing to hear a coach say that, very Spo-ish. There are, and I'm going to get into this with Eric when I see him, because I know that he and McDaniel have spent some time together. Eric likes to talk to the Dolphins coach. He tried to set up a meeting with Flores, and then COVID intervened during that time. There are similarities between McDaniel and Spo. No, Spo is not as self-deprecating as McDaniel, and he's not nearly as funny. Okay, I've known Eric since 1998, probably. So I've known Eric a long time. And Eric is a thinker, but he's probably not out there like McDaniel is. But the one thing that I think is similar between the two of them, and it's funny Alfredo brought this up because I was thinking about doing a whole episode about this eventually, is that they are very good, and McDaniel, you can tell, at not taking credit and not publicly assessing blame, which is empowering. I've always said that one of Spoelstra's great traits, which is actually a little different from Riley. Pat used to call guys out publicly. Eric doesn't do that. What Eric will do is he'll criticize collectively and praise individually. He doesn't do the opposite. Now, compare that to some of the coaches the Dolphins have had. Adam Gase, who blamed everybody but himself, right? Difficult to win on the road. This guy didn't do this, all the rest, no accountability, right? Well, McDaniel, again, starts that post-game locker room, and that's pure. Like, that's not staged for media. That's how you're feeling as you're walking in the room. The first thing he says is, I didn't do bleep. The last thing he does is make sure Tua comes in and breaks everybody down, right, as the leader, to say, okay, that guy needs to get better. I think everybody's agreement that Tua wasn't good enough in certain spots, particularly in the fourth quarter of this last game. But I still believe in this guy. You guys should too. I'm empowering him. And I thought that what you saw in that is genuine him. Like, he's not putting on airs. Like, I couldn't see Spo giving that speech. Okay. I know about speeches that Spo gives. Spo curses a lot more privately than he does publicly. I can tell you that. I've experienced that. But he does it with his players too. But I do see similarities between the two of them. I think it's a high level of intelligence. It's a willingness to innovate. And it's an idea that you're empowering the people on your roster. The thing that Eric Spoelstra has done so well, if you just want to say one thing above everything else, is he brings the best out of everybody who's on the team. He tries to play to their strengths. McDaniel does the same thing. So I didn't mean to divert this into a Heat episode, but I do see the similarities. Thank you. Thank you for the comment there. We appreciate it. We'll take all of your comments. I don't push for the super chat in the morning. It's early. You don't have to send me money. I mean, if you like to, I could invest in the market today, but I don't have to. But anyway, I just looking at these next three, we're going to find out a lot about how Mike McDaniel handles adversity, how he makes adjustments in key situations. You know, we saw Nathaniel Hackett for Denver freeze up, make a stupid decision, and then just kind of double down on it. Will McDaniel make that kind of decision? I don't believe so, but we're going to see. All right, we're going to talk a little bit more about it. We'll take more comments, get you ready for Miami and Baltimore, just sort of set the stage. What I like to do here on Starting Lines is kind of tell you what's coming on the channel over the next couple of days. Before we do, I want to tell you about PrizePicks. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. It's the official fantasy sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. We've had a ton of signups lately. Everybody's kind of getting juiced up for football season. We'll get juiced up for basketball season too. We appreciate David Fernandez for the graphic here. But you see the code there. It's 5. It's not the number 5. It's just spell it out. It can be capitalized, not capitalized, whatever. The reason you've got to do that is because you will get your initial deposit matched up to 100. So if you deposit 100, you can do it from PayPal, do it from a credit card. They don't charge you a fee on it. You put down $100, you'll get $100 to play from the very beginning. Okay. You put down 20, they'll give you 20. If you want to do that, that's fine too. But just make sure that you use the code 5, F-I-V-E. You can play the NFL stuff. They put all the stuff on the board. Basically by Monday, it starts to trickle in a little bit more. I saw Tua's number went up a little bit from last week, but not a lot. I think it's 235.5. So if you want to go over or under, but also you can play running backs, receivers, kickers, all kinds of stuff is on there. You can see sort of how this works. The pass completions with Tua, which is usually a good one. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. Again, we appreciate David Fernandez for throwing this stuff together for us. Micah Wonder on Mike Gesicki, the way that he was used last week. But go to PrizePicks, use the code 5, F-I-V-E. I can tell you we're going to have a PrizePicks on 5 today. Get you ready for the big Thursday night game, which is on Amazon, so nobody's going to actually see it, between the Chargers and the Chiefs. So we'll do one of those today. Also, Dolphins on 5 later today. Also, Better Edge preview for the rest of the week here later today. All right, so let's get through this real quick. If you got any comments, you can throw them in, and we'll definitely read them. But just to get to Baltimore and Miami on the matchup, okay? I know all the focus is going to be on Lamar. I mean, for good reason, all right? And they will have a plan, I'm sure, to try to contain as much as possible, keep him in the pocket. We did see a couple of years ago they did that, and Lamar torched them. And, you know, this idea that Lamar can't throw from the pocket, I think, is antiquated, but you would rather have him there than outside, for sure. But to me, the key on this is controlling the Ravens' running game and not allowing Lamar to play off of it. And we see that Dobbins may be active for the first time here in quite a long time. So that's a big issue. But on the other side, to me, the number one thing for the Dolphins, I know people are going to focus on Tua, but I'm going to the running game also. I get it that they're going to use Edmonds and Mostert as essentially additional receivers this year. And I thought that Edmonds did some good things late in the game. They got to get some things going on first down occasionally, though. Okay, occasionally. I'm in favor of being aggressive and throwing a lot on first down, particularly if you can throw the short slants, the quicks, and just pick up 6-7 yards and just shorten the chains a little bit. I'm good with that. But you have to have a little bit of a running game on early downs to set up play action. So They got to get it going. I'm not talking about 30 carries. That's not going to be this kind of team. I mean, no, I don't think any Dolphin running back is going to get more than 20 carries in a game this year. I really don't. All right. I just don't think that's the way that they're built. But we do know that Mike McDaniel likes to run the ball. They will get more creative. One of the issues, of course, is the status of the tackles. Doesn't look like Austin Jackson's going to play. It looks like Armstead will play. It's a little bit questionable because they talked about the toe injury. I was standing in front of Armstead on Sunday, and he said, I'll be ready to go for Monday, and then he didn't practice. But also, they listed it on the report as a veteran rest day, but also listed the toe. So we'll see if he plays. He was terrific in game 1, as expected. The issue with him is, can he get through 17? So we'll see if he plays. But I think either way, the run game, to me, is going to be much more important in this game. You got to keep Lamar off the field. You got to run a little bit of clock. Stay aggressive, but do stuff early in the clock with the run game. And I want to see, can they get 50 rushing yards out of Chase Edmonds this weekend, on 13 carries? Okay. And that would be helpful. Yeah, this team is not built like some other teams, but they got to get a little bit of stuff done. But again, I think they need to get this one because I don't think they got any chance against Buffalo. I just don't, the way that team looks right now. And then you don't want to be in a situation where you're 1-2 and then you've got Cincinnati. And then you start to hear whispers about the coach, which you weren't hearing earlier. Gase started slow. Sperano started slow. But this guy has a different kind of energy. And you want to keep that energy going. So, to me, the run game on both sides is going to be much more important in this game. Well, thanks for spending some time this morning. Again, we're going to do these short episodes, get you ready for everything. Check out Better Edge show later today. All the college football stuff with Sean Rochester. Andre and Tony Schwartz will be on later today. David Eversole, Alfredo Arteaga on Dolphins on 5 later today as well. Also check out everything else on the channel. Canes, Texas A&M on Saturday. We'll have a pregame show. Catch that one out. Look at all the stuff we got going. Pulse of Fins Nation's up there right now. That got over 1,500 views. That's Louis Sung and Ron Kneff. So check that one out as well. And we'll do pregame and postgame. I'm hosting Dolphins pregame yard prep on Sunday. David Fernandez has the day off, but we will get you ready for that one, the game up in Baltimore. Have a good day, everybody.